Tom is on the line in Nashua.
Awesome.
You're on Free Talk Live, Tom.
Yeah, good evening. I wanted to talk to you about United States citizenship. And I tell you, if you want to live and work in the United States of America, it really helps if you have United States citizenship.
Sure does.
However, if you prefer to live and work somewhere else, then it's kind of like a cancer. You see, my aunt, she was told that her cancer was cured, and then a few years later it came back, and eventually it met her demise because she thought it was cured. And this is happening to people. First of all, what the problem is that not so much that you have to pay U.S. taxes, but you also have to find an accountant who's capable of doing all the math and knowing all the ins and outs of filing a U.S. tax return so that you can find out that you don't have to pay anything because you paid so much local taxes anyway. And you have to you find out that you were supposed to be reporting your bank accounts to the U.S. Treasury all of these years, and you haven't been doing it, so there's humongous fines and prison time for that. So people decide they're not going to take any chances. They're just going to stay away from the United States because they don't want to go to prison for failing to report a bank account, even though there was no tax to pay on the money. And that's what's the problem with it. Now, some people thought they were cured of U.S. citizenship when they became citizens of another country because they swore off their allegiance, and the bureaucrats told them, and U.S. statutes said the same thing. If you become a citizen of another country, that you would lose your U.S. citizenship. And then the U.S. Supreme Court modified that because the 14th Amendment spells out, the citizenship clause. And so, in all fairness to the U.S. Supreme Court, it's the Constitution and the overreach of imposing these requirements on expatriates that's really the problem. Because, the Constitution does say that these people are still citizens, even if they took that oath, unless they did it with the intention of losing their citizenship. And how are you supposed to find out what their intentions are? So, going on to explain some examples, okay. A member of the House of Commons, Elizabeth May, who was very much against the Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act, she was born in Connecticut, and she became a Canadian citizen, and she went on to become the leader of the Green Party of Canada. But she's in a situation where she might wind up having her bank accounts reported to the United States because she was born in the United States, even though under Canadian law she's only a Canadian citizen.
It's crazy.
Another example.
The FACTA thing is that the bank regulations you're discussing, that is what forces supposedly banks around the world to snitch on and report on American people who have jobs and who have bank accounts, and that makes it so the IRS can come after them.
Or they get locked out of the U.S. markets and the U.S. Clearinghouses, and they can't do clear international transactions as easily. So they're just going to wind up bypassing that. And
Thanks, Tom, for the call tonight. I appreciate hearing from you. Now, one way to get around that, of course, is Bitcoin. Bitcoin is an international decentralized currency that nobody can control whether you have a Bitcoin account. You can go and create a Bitcoin account without anyone ever knowing you've created the Bitcoin account. Unlike banks, where you got to go in and show them all kinds of identification and bend over, and they're going to put the rubber glove on with the Patriot Act. They're going to get you good. With Bitcoin, you just go and create a wallet, and you can create the wallet through services like blockchain.info or blockchain.com. Same company, just two different sites. Or you can go through the actual official client for the program, and when you install that official client, nobody knows you've installed it. Nobody knows you've generated your own wallet unless you tell someone. Then no one has any clue. And so Bitcoin, while it's a system that allows for transparency, meaning that every transaction that has ever occurred with Bitcoin is public. You can go and look at any transaction that ever happened. And but it can also be used anonymously. So even though it is public, it can be used anonymously.
If it says bank account number 5492744, bunch of numbers and letters and stuff, made this transaction to this this bank account.
Mm-hmm.
That information, without being sort of linked to names and addresses, isn't terribly useful.
That's correct.
Yeah, a Bitcoin wallet, I would say, has the potential to be like the ultimate numbered bank account, more so than any other version of a numbered bank account that has existed up to now.
Yeah, and
now, was Tom talking about the Swiss banks, or was it?
Well, worldwide banks are.
Okay.
There's this FATCA thing that he mentioned. I think is what the
FATCA.
Yeah, it's FATCA. Yeah, so that's where the foreign banks, Swiss banks, etc., are being told by the feds that they need to hop to and do what they're told.
Right.
And they're doing it.
And give up info on their clients to the U.S. government.
I heard, and don't remember who said it, but I heard that the U.S. was the only nation in the world that had the temerity to tax their citizens who were not earning income inside the U.S.
I've heard North Korea added to that list, but I can't imagine that is entirely true. I mean, how many? I don't even know how their tax system works. So yes, there are very few countries that tax a person, whether citizen or not, that is not in their geographic area. When they have these VAT taxes, I've got to say that I think a VAT tax is better than what we've got here in this country as far as an income tax goes.
Why?
I think it's fairer, I suppose.
Oh.
If you consider the concept of government to be fair, then a VAT is fairer than the income tax. The income tax can be dodged with relative ease.
You can't dodge the VAT.
And frankly, with relative impunity. Tens of millions of people in the United States, adults between the ages of 18 and 64, just don't pay.
But you can't dodge the VAT tax because it's
you
assessed
can't dodge
at every movement along the manufacturing process, essentially. Anytime a product is sold from one company to another, as I understand it, the VAT tax is added.
I thought it was just at retail. It probably depends on...
No, VAT is at every level. Otherwise, it would just be a sales tax.
Yeah. Wouldn't be just a value-added tax, right?
Come back with more here in moments. And to whom is the value being added, and what value? It's a crazy name for a tax.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.